going to be responding to the claims that genetically modified plants and animals are hazardous for those who consume it. My opponent makes a secondary claim that genetically engineered animals such as chickens are hazardous to consume, that GMOs are toxic to the environment, and that genetically modified agriculture such as corn is hazardous for animals and humans to consume. My response to his first claim is that GMOs are such as chickens are not hazardous to consume. And he argued his point by saying that the FDA states chickens are injected with arsenic. While it is true that the FDA is aware that chickens were injected with arsenic, like in the past few years, the FDA also stated that the use of arsenic in chickens has been increasingly discontinued. So what that means is that arsenic in chicken is not as big an issue as it once was. And he also argued that studies correlate the amount of arsenic in the human body to cancer. Arsenic is correlated to cancer, but this does not prove the relationship between GMOs and cancer. And even then, correlation does not equal causation. My response to the second claim, to secondary claim 2, is that GMOs are actually beneficial for the environment. The advocate said that GMOs deplete soil and destroy beneficial bacteria, but he argued this by saying that Roundup, the chemical of choice for many GMOs, has been found to persist in soil waterways and other environmental nooks and crannies, and sometimes it even ends up contaminating water supplies. That does not prove that it just let the GMOs deplete soil minerals and destroy beneficial bacteria. He also failed to mention that GMOs, by using a GMO like BT cotton, for example, we can reduce about 50% of pesticide usage, which this is beneficial for soil. He also argued that they damage native species. GMOs do not damage native species. To the contrary, in order to protect GMOs from damaging native species like corn, naturally occurring proteins are built into the seeds of crops, and that's how corn feed off. And my response to his secondary claim number 3, GMOs are safe for animal and human consumption. He made the claim he argued that GMO corn contains herbicides and fluticide insecticides are not thoroughly tested for safety. Actually, GMO corn crops are actually more rigorously tested than their non-GMO counterparts. This is in reality, in the United States alone, GMO crops are regulated by the Food and Drug Administration, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and for insect protected crops, the Environmental Protection Agency. He also argued that consumption of the toxic meat leads to many diseases such as coronary heart disease and/or cancer. There is no evidence that consuming meat from GMOs causes coronary heart disease and/or cancer. However, there is a correlation between processed meat and heart disease, but this is not even this is not true.
All right, the structural stuff is pretty solid at the beginning. You have a good preview of what the advocates' arguments were. Your signpost on the first point when you got to it was clear. The discussion of the arsenic issue I thought was pretty solid. You had some evidence that said that this practice is decreasing. You also had a challenge to the advocates' reasoning, suggesting that just because there's a correlation doesn't necessarily show that there is causation on that particular point. And the link, one of the things that I think is missing here is an argument about the link to GMOs. How is it that injecting arsenic is the equivalent of a genetically modified organism? That sounds like it's a little bit of a different sort of thing. Arsenic is not a genetic material, so how does this count and how would it apply to the advocate's argument? I think you've missed that argument there. On the second point, again, it's clearly labeled. You've got a good counterclaim on this particular point. You're arguing that you argue the relationship between Roundup and any harmful consequences. In essence, you say that the data that the advocate supplies doesn't support the claim that they're making, that it's a different piece of information that's being used, and I understood that. And then you've got the counterclaim about what the benefits would be to the soil, for instance, with cotton. I understood that. There's an argument about native species that you presented that wasn't very clear to me, so I think you would need to spend a little bit more time on that, and I'm not sure if that addresses an argument that the advocate presented or if it's an extra argument on your part. Again, the label on the third point is pretty clear. I like the idea that there's plenty of safety testing. You suggest that there's more safety testing on the GMOs than there is on regular kinds of foods. If that's an authoritative piece of evidence that says that would be good, because it sounds like regular foods would be regulated under the same organizations or institutions. Do we have any results from this? For example, if the FDA has cleared them, the USDA has cleared them, and the EPA has cleared them, that's what we need to have, is we need to have that particular information. And then again, you've got another challenge about the link between coronary heart disease and cancer, it's basically a press based on correlation, and that's okay. The packaged meat argument, I think there's an argument here, but again, the question is, how does that relate to GMOs as opposed to the way the meat is processed as opposed to the way it is created? I think that's another place where there's a reasoning argument to make that you miss on that point. All right, thank you.